Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding Motion. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about when I use slow reps. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I always get people that see my workout vlogs on Rumble, or they watch me train with some of my training footage, and they notice that most of the time, or a lot of the time, I use a faster tempo type of training. Now, the reason why I do this is because I find I get the best results and the most muscular damage overall. But that doesn't mean that I never use slow reps and I don't see their purpose. But what a lot of people don't realize is that there is the law of individuality, which I always talk about in this channel. So any advice I give you is only really the advice that I have realized through experimentation with my own body. And my best advice for you is to experiment and find out what is appropriate for you, like what creates results. So yesterday there was a couple comments down in the comment section where this one guy said, hey, it makes sense that you're using lighter weights for your bicep training from time to time because I noticed that biceps have more slow twitch fibers. Then of course, right below there was a guy named Keenan who comments on here all the time. So thanks a lot, buddy. I really appreciate that. He's always interacting with the community and stuff, and very nice, humble guy. And he said, no, he only got results once he started using heavier weight with bicep training. So both of these guys are getting results from a different method. Now, could they be at different levels? Yeah, but we know for sure that they both have different constitutions and different physical bodies. And what I'm trying to say is that this is why you need to experiment, because what might work for one person might not necessarily be your magic bullet to put on muscle. So all we can do is say, here are the tools. Now play with these tools and see what happens and do it as safely as possible, right? So there are times that I use slow reps. One of the experiments that I did back in the day was I started doing super slow repetitions because this big natural guy in my gym, he used to do nothing but slow reps and he looked like a tank. He looked unbelievable, looked great. But what I noticed is that when I started using slow repetitions, at first I got really sore. Like I was like, oh my God, my muscles are just destroyed, right? There's just so much soreness. But after a while, I noticed that I didn't get sore anymore, and I noticed that I was flattening out, like it was almost like I was losing muscle. And then of course, when I go to lift heavy once in a while, then my strength was actually going down because I was not used to it, the groove was gone, and so forth. But overall, I noticed for the most part, I was not responding positively. I wasn't getting that pumpy and lumpy look from that type of training. So because of this, I had to say, hey, you know, this method works great for this guy. It's not like he's insane because I'm noticing it's really working, but I have to find out what's working for me. And so I started to find my own tempo. Now, that said, I would once in a while, kind of like once in a while you do high reps or low reps, once in a while I would integrate a slow repetition. And some of the times that I would do this are in these very sensible or logical places. One time you want to do a slower repetition, especially on the descent, is the first rep or two when you're using heavier weight than usual, or you're using heavy weight, right? Say you're doing a 5-rep set or 6-rep set. You really want to make sure that everything is firing properly and you're lowering that weight slowly to make sure that everything is firing right and there's no surprises. The other thing is it does help break down tissue because you are controlling the weight all the way down. But that said, I noticed that once I'm warmed up and once I've got my groove, I benefit from just increasing the tempo a little bit. This could be different for somebody else, but safety-wise, the slow rep during heavyweight is definitely common sense. You see me do this with squats as well. And you'll also see me use a reduced range of motion during the first rep or two whenever I'm using heavy weight, because I'm trying to make sure the body knows, hey, this is what's coming. And then after it understands what's coming as far as tension goes, then I might go a little bit deeper or a little bit lower in the squat and go from there. But the whole point is getting your body acclimated, and slow reps can be a great way of doing this. Now, the other time you'll see me use slow reps is when I'm doing endurance work or I'm really concentrating on that mind-muscle connection where I can feel deep in the muscle belly, I'm getting a tearing feeling or a breakdown, and I'm getting a great pump, and I'm using higher repetitions. So when I'm using these higher repetitions, and then sometimes I want to get a few last ones, but I'm really concentrating more on the negative on the way down, Then I'll slow the repetitions down to see if I can get that last bit of fatigue on the negative, right? Because I don't have much energy to get the positive, so I'm really doing forced reps. It's like I'm extending the set because I can't do too many positive reps, but I can really work on slowing stuff down. So I'm doing negatives or eccentric repetitions. And of course, doing those slowly really challenges the muscle in a certain way. But the other time you'll see other people use eccentric repetitions is if they use super heavy weight that they can't do a positive rep with, and they do really slow descents with it. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I find that that's extremely hard on the system, and if you have any sort of weird tweak or imbalance or something, the risk of injury is much higher. So that is the one time that I wouldn't recommend. I really wouldn't recommend that technique, using weight that's above your 1 rep max and going through the full range of motion. I mean, I'm all about people doing partials and stuff because they can actually accomplish a positive rep, they can do the concentric and the eccentric. But if you can only just lower the weight slowly, there is a certain risk in that may give you some results at first, but it can be devastating if something goes wrong. So I wouldn't really recommend that method of using the slow rep, right? But again, the last way that people use slow reps is some people find, and some strength coaches like Charles Poliquin, all that kind of stuff, that these guys found that slow reps worked great for most of their athletes, and they said this is the best way to train. And they were doing a certain tempo, like 2 seconds up and 3 seconds down or whatever. But for myself, I found that that is not necessarily the ideal repetition for me all the time. But the thing is, I do incorporate it. Once in a while, I do incorporate it. And the way I do this is sometimes I don't have access to heavy weight, and I want to make the weight that I'm using harder. So for instance, I only have 100-pound dumbbells for bench presses in the garage, but I can do 120s, 140s, on a good day, if everything feels right. So sometimes what I'll do is slow down the repetitions with the hundreds just to make it harder. And therefore I get a workout, but at the same time, I don't necessarily have to go heavier. I mean, ideal, I'd have heavier weight once in a while, but this makes it into a different sort of workout with the same weight. It can make it a little bit more intense in a certain way and maybe less intense in another way. So I kind of mix it up. There's no question that different muscle fibers are involved depending on the speed of the rep. So if you're going to hit more slow twitch fibers, one could really argue that slow reps hit more of the slow twitch fibers and the fast reps hit more of the fast twitch fibers or explosive fibers. So playing around with these things can give you a different stimulation on one type of muscle fiber or another. And the other time you want to use slow reps, especially, is if you're sore or a little tight and you're forcing yourself to work out anyway. You definitely want to make sure that weight is really controlled on the way down and on the way up, because super fast reps with glassy type muscles, that's when you get a muscle tear or a problem or a pull or a tweak. So that's one place where slow reps are really great, is because they keep you more safe when it comes down to handling weights under certain environments, such as being sore or tight or whatever. And it does allow you to get immersed into the movement and ease you into what it is to stretch and contract the muscles. So I highly recommend using slower repetitions on your warm-ups at first, and then work your way into higher or faster speeds if you find that that is appropriate for your body type.
Mountain.
So yeah, I hope this helps out in your training. Thanks a lot for watching. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalgallantbodybuilding.com, and thanks to the patron supporters, and take care for now.
Natural Gallant.